These are the faces of some of those still wanted for the riots in Birmingham and parts of the Black Country 2 years ago. Now, since then, West Midlands police have arrested 775 people for offences connected with some of the worst unrest in a generation. Now, they're still looking for 79 others who are alleged to have been involved but have never been traced. In a moment, I'll be talking to an MP who says some of the issues behind the rioting still haven't been addressed. But first, this report from Liz Roberts.
The day a jeweller's in Wolverhampton was at the sharp end of the riots.
When we came in, there was nothing here. Everything was damaged. The whole shop was trashed. The counters, glass everywhere.
Today, it's a very different story.
I wasn't letting them defeat me. My family said, "Why don't you retire?" I said, "No, I'm not letting a load of yobbos, beat me." So I started again. I started this 45 years ago. I'll start again, which I've done.
£45,000 has been spent repairing the damage, but for others the cost was immeasurable.
Today we stand here to plead with all the youth to remain calm.
Tariq Jahan's son lost his life while attempting to stop the rioters.
I believe the community's kept the faith. They've done really well. We've had no trouble since. There hasn't been anything that anyone could look back at and complain about. The riots did come to an end, and the people have shown unity.
But today at a youth centre in Winson Green, a lack of opportunities is a recipe for frustration.
Young people need more things to do, like more activities. There need to be more programmes for young people to get into, so they can go on to work from those activities. I just feel like you can be often misunderstood as a young man.
I think cutbacks on youth service shouldn't happen. I think more money should be inputted in, and the youth are our future basically, so realistically we've got to keep pumping money and have a lot of belief in them.
The riots were the worst in a generation, but the police have always been clear what they believe was behind them.
This was not an angry crowd, this was a greedy crowd. What we were dealing with was dishonesty and disorder.
The police say they're now better equipped to react to any riots in the future, but questions remain about what's being done to prevent that happening. Liz Roberts, BBC Midlands Today, Birmingham.
I'm joined now by Khalid Mahmood, MP for Perrybar in Birmingham. Good evening. 2 years after the riots, do you feel that your constituency and others affected have moved on?
Not really, no. I know the reports from the police say that they've made a great number of arrests and still some outstanding. But their resources have dwindled. That's why 2 years after the event, we've still got about 80 people outstanding that need to be dealt with. So they haven't been able to deal with those. We've got the highest rates of youth unemployment, highest rates of young people coming out of education without proper training and proper education, and therefore no jobs. The highest number of long-term unemployed for young people. So there's a huge disaffection that's been taking place, and we're about to lose a generation of young people to that.
Now, you'll be aware that the Riots, Communities and Victims Panel report stated that the causes of these riots were complex. I mean, there's no one solution, there's no one recommendation, and not all of those recommendations were down to the government, were they? It is a complex issue.
It's a very complex issue, and I think communities are going to play their role into it, the local authorities are going to play a role into it, but the government is the main catalyst for this. If the government starts to continue to cut funding to local authorities and they aren't able to deliver, at the moment I've got in my constituency a huge number of leisure and youth centres being closed because of the government cuts. So it becomes very difficult for those young people to be put forward.
It's also difficult making these decisions because money is tight. So if your party, the Labour Party, was in charge, if you were implementing some of these changes, what would you do?
Well, I think there are different ways of doing this, and I think that what the central government has done is squeezed the local authority.
So what would you do?
Well, I do what I'm doing at the moment in my constituency, working with the local institutions. I've got a college, South and City, which just invested £1 million into its campus in Handsworth, which means a lot of young people now. That campus was dead. I've got now a lot of young people going into that, and the college has done fantastic work to deliver that. I want local authorities and councils and the central government to start to support some of those small things which will make a huge difference.
And does that need money? Does that need investment? Because you've been able to do that without you know, when funds are tight?
Well, no, it didn't need money. It needed money from the college, and they were prepared to put the money forward. So when there are institutions that have money, we need to get some of that money worked up to be able to deliver a service and not to lose young people that we're losing.
Do you feel that these riots that we saw on the streets of Birmingham, parts of the Black Country 2 years ago, could happen again?
Well, I certainly don't want it to happen again. In Lascelles East Handsworth, that didn't happen this time. For the first time in Lascelles, there wasn't a disturbance when everybody else was disturbed. So we work the model, we can beat the model, but we need to work together to do that. We need resources from central government to be able to do that. I don't want to see another disturbance in Birmingham.
OK, Khalid Mahmood, thank you.
Thank you.